Hey guys, in my last Showman video, right before I went through this startup sequence, I did a test of ground, this ground terminal on the cable that was on here, and it was open. There was no continuity. And so I wound up using this monitor cable here to wire everything so I can get power while I was troubleshooting and waiting for a new cable to show up. So anyway, there's a couple of reasons why this cable won't work. I mean, it's like maybe 3 feet long, and this is going to go in like a separate head unit. So you could imagine if you set this up here and you have this like short cable that's going down, at the very best it's going to bridge directly down to a receptacle on the wall. If somebody walks behind that amp and doesn't see the black cable because it's dark or whatever, it's a trip hazard. They can pull that whole head unit off, and I don't really like the idea of that. Another thing I just want to mention is, they sell these on a couple of the amp repair web pages, and they're like $29, $30. One of the things I don't like about them is these don't fully occupy the strain relief here. And so if you pull on this really hard, it's going to come out, and that obviously isn't good. And so another thing about this is that the conductors on here are very small. I think they're smaller than what was in the original cable, or pretty close. And this insulation here is it's like a hard plastic. And I think in the future it may wind up, having an issue with cracking or whatever. So, especially when exposed to all this heat. One of the things I want to say, I'll walk through this while I'm doing it, and that way you guys can hear sort of my thought process on what I'm doing. But I want to explain a couple things before we get into it. You're going to see me use a different solder iron, Monster, to basically get these solder connections here. So you can see that I wind up picking up that solder connection. The reason why you want to use this is because it has enough heat in it to melt that pool without having to dwell on it for very long. And so you could kind of just liquefy that pool and then stick your conductor in there and then take the solder iron off. And believe it or not, it does less damage to these plastic joints than having to stick like a little Hakko or something, smaller solder iron in here, because you really have to dwell on it for a long time to get enough heat in there, if you could even melt it at all. These chassis are, I think they're aluminum, and they just super conductive, and so they just suck all the heat out. And so it's really hard to keep one of these, a puddle that big, liquid, so you could work. So anyway, that's what this is about. I'm going to stop talking and just get into it. Okay, I'm kind of inverted here on one of these stands. It's kind of a good reason to have one of these, because you can kind of get access to the back if you need to without having to pick this amp up. They're so heavy, and the weight's distributed for me, and so it can get unwieldy. So I'm just going to pinch this connector here and then pull this guy out. There you go. Okay, so I got that free. I'm going to take this plastic off, set it aside, and we're going to go back to this position. Okay, I already took the death cap out. It was previously installed right here on the chassis, and the other end was installed on this lug of this ground switch. I recommend to get rid of those because if they can fail and short directly to the chassis, which could, if you have them switched the right way, you could introduce 120 volts directly to your amp chassis. If you touch it, you're gonna get shocked. I use this ground switch here as just as a terminal block, but I'm gonna free this up because I want to be able to use this receptacle for something else later. So that's coming out. I'm gonna pull this off. Sorry about that. The autofocus on it was focusing on my hands here. Yeah, so I'm taking this out of circuit. I took this outlet out of circuit. I don't want that. I want to be able to use it for something else later. And so I don't really like using those outlets. It's possible to introduce some interference from another device, and so it's not really that great. Let's see if we can heat this up and pull it out. I'm going to wire this these up a little different. If I can get it to, there you go. All right, we're out of there. Let me see if I can get this one out. I was having trouble with it earlier. Sometimes it helps adding solder to your little chisel here because it helps to wick the heat out over a bigger contact area, and then it makes it so you can get the heat into the solder really quick. And it'll help melt everything. Let's see if I can get that off of there. There's a wire right there on the end. Try to get that out of there. There we go. It's still on there, but it'll be all right. Okay, so I got this out. I'm gonna see if I can get this ground cable out of here with this solder iron. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So let me put some solder on this guy. There you go. So I'm gonna add some solder, just like I did before, to help get some conduction. But so I'm just stuck on there right now. It's dwelling, and the chassis is just sucking the heat out. And so it could take an eternity to get this off there. It just solidified that solder I just put on there. Anyway, I tell you what, I'm just gonna cut that off, and I'll fish it out later when I get my big iron out. See, it's not melting. It's like kind of melting, like the top of it, but it's not. Anyway, I'll cut this off and leave enough that I can have something to pull on later. There you go. All right. Okay, let me show you this. This is the new cable I got. It's a 10-footer. It's much more big and larger in diameter. And it'll occupy the strain reliever vise, and I'll really have to push it in to get it in, but it will resist getting pulled out. Let me say that. But they work pretty good. I might have to do that on camera because I'm gonna wind up wrestling with it. Let me cut all this shit off of here. I'll be right back. Okay, these are the biggest wire cutters I got in my office where I'm working right now. See if I can get this cut. I'll come back and clean this up later. I'm just trying to get this plug off. I'm gonna take that insulation off of the outside anyway. Oh my God, this is stupid. There we go. Okay, I'm just gonna fish this in and kind of just rough it out to how long I need it to be. So I'm gonna go all the way over to this power switch here. I think that's about good right there. So I got my fingers where I want to cut it. I like to use, this is a scalpel, and it works like an X-Acto blade, but it does what you would imagine you want a X-Acto blade to do. So I'm just making like a very thin cut through the insulation. And you can kind of bend it a little bit and it'll come out. It'll pop open. Obviously you don't want to, you just want to cut right through the insulation, no deeper. You can kind of see it in there. Here we go. Got it. Because this whole thing will just come off. You can see these conductors are a lot fatter than what we started off with, and so it's a lot better. So I'm going to leave all this linked on the screen wire here, and I'm going to roll. Well, let me get them through here. Let me get the strain relief on real quick. I'm gonna try to do this on camera. I got a couple tools here. They work pretty good for this. They sell like a specialty tool for it, but I don't really have, I don't do this often enough to justify spending money on another tool. Okay, so I got these wires, these soft jaw wire pliers here. They work pretty good usually. So if you just squeeze that guy, I'm gonna try to do this on camera, but I might have to wrestle with it off camera a little bit. This usually too. All right, guys, I had to wrestle around with that a little bit to get it in, but it is in now. It is not going anywhere. So let's turn it back down. I'm gonna go over to this view again. Okay, like I said, I'm gonna leave this green wire here. And I'm just gonna braid these two. And I'm gonna go get a heat gun in a second. And if you hit this with a little heat and let it hang out for a minute, it'll stay braided like this. Not braided, but twisted. There we go. And this plastic will kind of relax. Okay. I'm gonna route this down. No, I'm gonna keep it where it's at. Let me see if I got room down here at the bottom. Kind of don't want to get it too close to those tubes because I don't want to transfer any of the, like if there is any kind of frequency coming off of this wire. But let me go get a heat gun real quick. Okay, so if you can kind of just put this where you wouldn't want it. I'm gonna let it sit here for a couple seconds. And when it cools off, it'll kind of stay where you left it. Okay, I think that's good enough for now. I'm just gonna leave that for a couple seconds and let it cool down. I'm just gonna pigtail this ground wire so that it's not all over the place. I'm just gonna hold up for a second, let it cool down. All right, so now I got this little pigtail here. So I can pull this ground wire through and I'm gonna wire it right here. And that way all this length is available, but it's not taking up half the chassis. Okay, I use these wire cutters. Let's see, what brand is this? These are Ideal Custom Strip Master. And it's got a whole bunch of different sizes on here. And so you just match the wire up with this. Let's see if it works. It's a 10 gauge, let's see. No, okay, let me try it. 12 gauge here. There we go. Take a little bit more than that. Also, these are copper conductors, which is a little better. I'm going to tin this wire real quick to help it solder. See, that solder just flows right down into that wire. Okay. Let's see if I can fix that again. Probably started screwing with it too early. All right, I'm gonna go get my big soldering iron. We're gonna melt that mess, get that wire out of there, and then put the new one in. Okay, my whole mission right now is to not burn anything with this gigantic. All right, I'm gonna bend this up just a little bit out of the way. I'll get it. Okay, here we go. Just grab all of that. So once I introduce this, it's gonna melt this right away. That's the difference. See, I'm already. It's melting here. I don't know, did I? There. So there's the thing I just pulled out of there. I'm kind of reluctant to add any. What's happening is I'm having a little bit of interference with the camera and that tab is on there. Okay, so let me try to get this lined up. Okay. Sorry, I'm kind of working through a lot of stuff. Got a lot of crap in the way here. Okay, it's already stuck just from that, but I'm gonna push it down, and I'm trying not to put too much heat into it so I don't melt that wire insulation. Damn, come on. But yeah, if you make contact with any other wires using this thing, it's going to melt the insulation right away. Okay, here we go. Give it 3 Mississippis. It's set. I'm still not really happy with that. Let me see. It's like over to one side. I pushed it too hard. There we go. Okay, it's in there now. Okay, what is this? There's another wire in there. Let's see if I can get that out. Anyway, this is like painting. You get it to look good, just leave it alone. I'm gonna leave it. Like I said, this is one of those situations where having the right tool for the right job is the only secret. Okay, let me get this transformer wire off of here. Just push all this out of the way. I'm gonna pull this wire off and I'll put it back on later. This will help me get in there and do what I need to do. Okay. All right. All right, I'm gonna bend that over like that. Okay. I just don't want to risk the wires coming out of here making contact. All right, here we go. I'll trim some of those off in a second. Oh, there we go. It's a nice little. All right. Got that one on there. Push this back up there. This is kind of a mess. I don't really need. So I'm going from here back around to there. Okay, I'm just gonna cut this off. All right. Okay, I'm gonna stick this one in this side and then we'll flip it over. There we go. Pull that back just the same way. Come on. There we go. Just gonna kind of move that around a little bit. All right. That looks good. And now I'm gonna just bring this over here. Maybe I'll go back and under. And through like that. Okay, here. This wire's weird. It's got a black jacket on the outside and PVC or some kind of plastic on the middle. Okay, I just want a little stub sticking out. Maybe a little bit more than that. Just need just a little hair. There you go. All right. Let me just activate this. It's hard to do when it's dry. There we go. Okay. Okay, got that. Oh, it's still wet. Okay, that's good. And there we go. Okay. All right, so that's on there. Now I'm gonna bring this, I'm not gonna cut these transformer wires off any lower. I think what I wanna try to do is snake them underneath. Tell you what, I'm gonna bend this little tab up to make it easier to stick this thing into. All right, I need to get this wet. So I'm gonna try to push this wire out of the way. Let's just dope this eyelet up here. Sometimes it's easier to have solder in the hole. Okay. Just tuck this down. Just bend that back down. Get the tail around there. Just don't want it to make contact with anything when I'm there. Okay. Now, this is gonna go back up here. I'm gonna peel off a little bit more of this white wire. And I need to connect these two. So I'm gonna come back around like this. There we go. So I'm just gonna borrow one of these terminals like I did before. If I ever come back and decide to do something different, I can mitigate it at that point in time. But this is, I just don't feel good about J-hooking these and then heat wrapping them or anything. So let me get this one through. Man, these wires are fat. I'm probably not making it better. Okay, got that side in. Just if I can get that other one in there too. Yeah, it's a big fat bundle, but I think I got it. Yeah, it doesn't help sometimes when these are already tinned because they just become really stiff. All right, I think that looks pretty good. From where I'm sitting here, let me pull some of the insulation back and get it on this side. Just want to make sure I got it good. Okay. Strain relief. This connection's like way better than it was before. Come over here, neutral. I'm going to this power switch right here. So I'm going in, power switch will jump over to here, fuse, out of the fuse into this black transformer wire. And then on this side, I got these two, the white transformer wire and the white neutral wire wired together right there on that terminal block. I'm just kind of pushing these wires up and out of the way. And I got my little pigtail here with that solder joint right there. Looks pretty good. It's not dry. All right, here's the big test. Here we go, we got power. Anyway, that's all I got, guys. Peace out.